There's a man trying to catch some of the radiation lingering in the skies of Tokyo. His name is Shinzo Kimura, a scientist who specializes in the study of radiation hygiene. Ever since the Fukushima nuclear accident, Kimura has been drawing samples of radioactive matter in the atmosphere from his home through this filter. On the morning of May 15th, the filter from the first day of radiation over Tokyo was sent to the Kyoto University Research Reactor Institute to be analyzed. A large amount of iodine-131 was detected, catching the attention of many. What makes Kimura interested in the flow of radiation?
3 and, let's see, half. So yes, 3 years and 6 months.
The answer was very close to home.
Being exposed to radiation myself is obviously not an easy feeling. The sense of crisis when I think about children who are biologically more vulnerable is much worse. We're heading up Route 6 towards the site of the radiation.
Following the accident, Shinzo Kimura has been commuting to the area to assess the radiation. He goes into empty villages that have been evacuated and takes samples of dirt, plants, water, and snow from the villages and surrounding mountains drenched by radiation. Kimura once worked for the National Institute of Radiological Sciences. He was on the research team for the Tokaimura nuclear accident of 1999. He later transferred to a research center of the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare and went to Chernobyl to conduct his own investigation. After the Fukushima accident, he was ordered to refrain from initiating any kind of research. Kimura left the agency.
After spending all this time involved with Chernobyl and Tokaimura, to be prepared for this type of an accident and not being able to use this research for feedback at least, my hands were tied. I wasn't permitted to do anything unless there were orders.
His research is being supported by his friends who are scientists. Kimura took the samples he collected in Fukushima to be evaluated by Tetsuji Imanaka of the Kyoto University Research Reactor Institute. The same samples were sent to Satoru Endo and Kiyoshi Shizuma at Hiroshima University. At Nagasaki University, Toshihiro Takatsuji uses a leading-edge device to help with measurements. Masaharu Okano, expert and pioneer of radiation research, has taken on a project to create a radioactive fallout contamination map using the most up-to-date measuring device that he developed himself. What exactly was the extent of contamination caused by radiation from the Fukushima nuclear accident? What is happening in the contaminated areas? This is a record of a 2-month survey, conducted by scientists working close together.
Fukushima の村田市。田村さん、ごめんなさい。取材、わかりました。はい。あります。はい。
Shinzo Kimura and the TV crew started out for Fukushima on May 15th, the day of the Fukushima Daiichi Unit 2 explosion. So soon after the earthquake, many of the streets were still inaccessible, and gasoline shortages caused long lineups at service stations in the towns. March 16th, Kimura made his first stop at Tamura Municipal Tokiwa Junior High School, 35 kilometers from the nuclear power plant. With permission from the principal, he began to take samples of the dirt. The reason? This is where children who are easily affected by radiation commute. Here is the analysis. 9 radionuclides were found in that dirt, with the most obvious being iodine-131. Although it has a short half-life of only 8 days, if inhaled, it becomes a cause of thyroid cancer. The amount? 5,150,000 becquerels per square meter. A becquerel is a unit of radiation.
I'm measuring the air dose rate of the area I'm taking dirt from. It's roughly 1.91 to 93 microsieverts per hour. That's about 40 times the radiation that is regularly in the air.
A sievert is a unit used to show the amount of radiation that affects the human body. The level of radiation reached its highest on March 16th. It was snowing off and on. After the accident, a radius of 20 kilometers from the nuclear power plant was designated an evacuation zone, and an indoor evacuation area was set up for residents living between 20 and 30 kilometers of the plant. On this day, Kimura started sampling from west to east. "22 kilometers west of the power plant is this town, Miyakojimachi, Tamura City. Vehicles carrying evacuees out of the town filled the streets. People in this town were originally urged to remain indoors, but many chose to leave. The town was extremely quiet. "240,000 becquerels of cesium was found in the dirt here. With that amount, residents of Chernobyl were guaranteed relocation. In particular, with a half-life of 30 years, cesium-137 means long-term contamination. This time, Kimura took some pine needles. Pine needles are often used as samples, as they absorb radiation well. The pine needles were then sent to Hiroshima University, where they were put in a machine that visualizes radioactive energy. The energy from radioactive material attached to the pine needles is shown in yellow, with the stronger area in red. It's easy to see that there are objects throughout Miyakoji that emit radioactive rays. Kimura entered within the 20-kilometer zone.
Some rocks have fallen. We're over 15 microsieverts per hour and getting higher and higher. Oh, it's exceeded the max.
There was a reason Kimura insisted on rushing to get a sample. After the nuclear accident at Tokaimura, response was slow and not enough radioactive material could be determined because of the short half-life. By swiftly collecting samples this time, he could contribute to a deeper analysis of the accident. He was willing to risk the danger.
The area around this lot is 250 microsieverts per hour. That is extremely high. This already exceeds the most contaminated zone in Chernobyl, called Red Forest. We're inside the car, and the level has exceeded 300 microsieverts per hour. See the needle at the very edge. About 40 microsieverts per hour now, so it's gone way down. That place back there must have been a hot spot. That would be one place to get a sample.
Places where radiation contamination is localized in high density are referred to as hot spots. Kimura suspects that there are patches of concentrated radioactive contamination near Futabamachi, close to the nuclear power plant. They leave the area where the earthquake still leaves its marks and head towards Okumamachi, where the nuclear power plant is located.
All you can see is the smokestack now. But if you go left there, you'll find the road to the plant.
The main road, Route 6, had been fractured by the earthquake. The smokestack of Fukushima Daiichi Power Station, 2.4 kilometers away, can be seen from this place called Chojihara. The wind this day was blowing from the west. The radiation level was 120 microsieverts per hour. A car was left on the damaged road.
The car has been contaminated. This survey meter only goes up to 300. It's past that.
Not being able to drive any further, the owner had to flee from his car, left only with the traces of exposure to winds coming from the nuclear plant. Kimura decided to backtrack to the 4-kilometer point and get a sample from what he thought was a hot spot. Radiation is above 300 microsieverts per hour here. It looks like time has stopped at this house, abandoned after the explosion of March 12th, with perhaps the intention of coming back for something. $166 million becquerels of iodine-131 and 21.2 million becquerels of cesium per square meter were found in ground samples here. That is a very large amount of radiation. When his west-to-east survey was finished, Kimura began sampling from south to north. He started out on March 20th. These are levels of radiation in the dirt collected in 3 spots, 20 to 30 kilometers from the Fukushima plant. Although both places are an equal distance from the plant, there is a 15 times difference in cesium between Suetsugi-machi and Katsurao-mura. It is clear that there is a difference in concentration.
Regardless of this scattered concentration, all residents living within a 20 to 30 kilometer radius of the power station were told to stay indoors. Thus, it was up to the citizens to decide whether they should leave or not. People were confused. After sundown, the crew visited the village of Katsurao-mura. There were no lights other than streetlights and traffic signals. On March 14th, 3 days after the earthquake, the entire village had decided to evacuate. Just before we all gave up thinking the town was empty, we noticed one lonely house up on the hill with the lights on. This was a family that raised racehorses. Yuichi Shinoki is the 5th generation owner of this ranch. The family has raised many famous horses over 100 years. There was a special reason that Yoichi and his son Yuichiro could not leave the village. This mare was ready to give birth at any moment. She needed care night and day. 3 days later, the crew went back to visit the Shinoki Ranch. He had been thinking hard about where to raise the newborn colt.
To get a grip on the entirety, data needed to be gathered from areas other than just the hotspots. Wishing to create a detailed contamination map connecting these spots, Kimura called on a certain researcher. Masaharu Okano, 84, a pioneer in environmental radiation survey.
Mr. Okano, did you get this data here?
This is iodine 131.
What? You've already found it? From today's...
There's quite a bit of it in the air around here today.
Yes.
After World War II, Mr. Okano studied under Yoshio Nishina, father of nuclear physics in Japan, at Natural Science Research Institute, RIKEN. Following the American Bikini hydrogen bomb experiment, Mr. Okano boarded a survey ship sent to the South Pacific by the Japanese government. In 1986, he joined an NHK coverage team to Chernobyl, just after the nuclear accident. He made records with his own radiation measuring device. His reports were highly evaluated internationally.
Oh, this is quite heavy. I admire you for toting it around.
Oh, yes, this. Originally, I used it to check deep sea faults. I attached it to the Shinkai 2000 or 6500.
This is the device made by Mr. Okano. It is a case that includes tube-shaped counters and recorders. It can record the level of radiation every 6 seconds, in addition to the time and location.
When there is an accident like this, it is important to assess the situation on site, but you must also look at the whole picture from quite a distance in order to understand the truth.
Towards the end of March, Kimura went to Fukushima's contaminated areas, this time with Mr. Okano's device in hand.
15時57分スイッチ入れます。
Kimura first drove along the main road because he is concerned about the people who live in clusters near the thruway.
カーボンメーター。あ、振り切ってます。振り切れてる。3マイクロシーベルト強ですね。3マイクロ。はい。4から5マイクロぐらい。上がってきた。はい。やっぱり雪の存在じゃないですか。これ雪の存在が高いと思います。消えました。はい。下がってない。下がってきてます。だから下がってきてるけど、急激に下がってないっていうことはもうやっぱり雪で沈着した放出物がもう土壌汚染をしてるっていうような感じ。なるほどね。そうね。はい。3.5、3マイクロから4マイクロ。中で4だから出たら5とか。ですね。あれですね。屋内対比レベルですね。はい。多分。
Okano transferred the radiation data collected on the main road from south to north onto a map. Blue circles show areas where the measurement was 1 microsievert or below. Green indicates 1 to 2 microsieverts. 2 to 5 is indicated in yellow. Orange is for 5 to 10. And red shows the spots where the count was 10 or higher. Radiation levels were low on the southwest because they were separated from the nuclear power plant by 1,000-meter-class mountains. On the other hand, the levels got higher towards the north. An especially condensed area of radioactive contamination was found along the national route 399. It was at the edge of Namie-Machi, right on the border of the 30-kilometer zone.
Akogi Namie-Machi, one of the hotspots discovered by Kimura and Mr. Okano. A number of people had apparently fled their homes near Fukushima Daiichi and come to stay in this community center. The level of radiation had gone over the limit that could be displayed. 4 couples and 4 single residents were living together in this center. These 12 residents had their reasons for staying there. Minoru Yoshida and his wife have a very dear pet cat.
綺麗な猫ですね。猫はどうしても避難のバスには連れて行けないですよね。ダメだって言われたんですか。バスもダメだし、部屋の中も入れられないし。ね。いいこと信じることないですよ。地震の時は何してらっしゃったんですか。うちでコーヒータイムだったね。
Kimiko Iwakura and her husband remained in Akogi so they could go home every day to feed their cat and their dog. According to Kimiko's diary, they have been home 4 times in the 2 weeks since coming to Akogi.
じゃあまた来るからって言って帰ろうとすると犬を追っかけてくるんですよ。でどうしようもないからすぐに外れるような感じにクリップを1回くらいガーッと力入ったら取れるようにそうやってきたって次の日、20日の日に行った時は取れてましたから外したんですね、追いかけてこれたら困るからね。私も原発に前勤めてた時もありましたね。30代の時に、その時はまあね勤め口があってみんな勢いよとしていましたけど、今このような生活を送ってもう毎日が夜寝る時も朝起きても虚しくて、悔しくて原発東電がすごく憎く思ってます。もう電気がなくてもね夜暗くてもそういう生活でもいいから原発はもう絶対欲しくないですね。
ちょうど夜の7時で、あとあそこを一応閉鎖するっていう指示で来たもんですから。
どこですか？
横浜市長。はい。ですからあとは連絡こちらでお願いしたいと思います。
わかりました。はい。
よろしくお願いします。
はい、ご苦労様でした。
The man brought notice that the local government office was closing down.
今日7時で閉鎖するっていうことで。
最寄りの役場も閉じられちゃうんですね。
そうですね。
また不安ですね。
そうですね。
The next day, we visited the Tsushima branch of the Namiemachi office. We expected it to be closed, but there were still people working there. They had decided to commute from where they had evacuated.
この辺はどのくらいの線量
ですね、今のところはですね、ただ山木屋の方が、線量は出てたんですが、ちょっと今のところ私のおそれは今日持ってこなかったんです。今日ちょっと朝来たもんで、変わってきましたから。
この辺結構線量高いって聞いてるんですけど、
どの辺が全然高いか、その結局拡散して、高くなってると思うんですよね。だからその辺は、まあ、情報とか何か聞かなくちゃいけないなとは思うんですけども。
The only source of information for the people in the community center was television. There was no internet connection, and even their mobile phones were out of reach. Because the town office will not recognize the place as an evacuation center, no relief supplies were delivered. They ate the food they had brought themselves and whatever farmers shared.
これは野菜なんですか？
これでじゃがいもで、
じゃがいも。
大根でネギ、これみんな
これが
These eggs were given to them when they went to help out at a poultry farm that needed people. We went to visit that poultry farm.
So the truckが止まってるところがそうなんですよ。
あ、こんにちは。こんにちは。
NHK の方ね。
どうも NHK です。取材に。こんにちは。
Yoshige Takahashi raises 40,000 hens. He has been shipping out 30,000 eggs a day. But after the nuclear accident, the farm is facing a crisis. There is no bird feed delivery. Some had started to die from hunger. A few days later, we went to visit again. It was too quiet. "30,000 hens had died of starvation." Takahashi opened up this farm in 1950 after he returned home alive from internment in Siberia. The nuclear accident took it all away from him.
How high is the level precisely at the community center in Akogi? Kimura has come to investigate.
80マイクロシーベルト毎日。80？はい。下の方がちょっと高いぐらいです。今こっちの方がちょっと低いぐらいです。
A high level of radioactive material was detected in the dirt taken from beside the community center. 4 million becquerels of cesium alone, and 23.2 million becquerels of iodine-131. This concentration is second only to the Yamada district, 4 kilometers from the nuclear power plant. We found some mushrooms in a field behind the center. Mushrooms are known to absorb and concentrate cesium. One kilogram of cesium is 420,000 becquerels. This figure is 840 times the average cesium level of edible mushrooms.
これでですね、20マイクロシーベルト毎 G で1時間あたり20マイクロシーベルトというあたりですかね。
この部屋に入る前に時計を測っています。
測ってます。測ってて、今皆さんが車を置かれているところで80マイクロシーベルト毎 G。はい。で、家の中はもちろん遮蔽というものができてますから、それは幾分か下がる、3分の1ぐらいに下がったりとかするんですが、汚染がありますね。はい。それにしても、この放出線量っていうのが大体どのくらいかというのが、普通に我々が住んでて、暮らしてても、1時間あたり、大体 0.06 マイクロシーベルト毎時というような値です。ということは、少なくとも外では1000倍強、1200倍ぐらいの放出線がすでにあるというところに皆さんがお住まいになられているということなんです。避難されているということなんです。
飯舘が近いからどうかなとは思ってたんですけど、ね、
飯舘の3倍ぐらいですかね。
ここ？
はい。
飯舘より高いですか？
はい。3倍ぐらいですかね。こっちの方が高い。
誰も知らないよね、この店。
はい。
ショックだね、知らないでいたから。
そうですよね。
全然知らないもんね、そんなの。
で、ここは高いというお話も知らなかったんですか？
ここは安全ということでね、27キロだから30キロに満たないけど。
On March 30th, 2 days after Kimura talked about the dangers of staying in Akogi, the people of this community center decided to move out. "12 days after these people left the community center, Akogi was finally designated a planned evacuation zone, where residents expected to receive over 20 millisieverts per year are requested to leave the area for a set period. Of those zones, Akogi was particularly contaminated. The evacuees at the community center had no way of knowing. In fact, beginning March 15th, the day of the Unit 2 explosion, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, or MEXT, posted radiation levels on their website. There were 3 points measured on the 15th, and each showed very high levels. However, the locations were not publicized. Point 3 measured 330 microsieverts, 5,500 times the average level in other areas of Japan. The attached map shows that areas to the northwest of the power plant had been chosen for measurement. Point 3 was the vicinity of Akogi, Namiyamachi. The Ministry of Science and Technology had already had their eye on this area. This data had been presented to the cabinet.
本日、文部科学省においてモニタリングをいただき、文部科学省から公表される数字について、専門家の皆さんのまずは概略的な分析の報告に基づきますと、直ちに人体に影響を与えるような数値ではないと。
There was no special attention given to Akogi. As of March 23rd, MEXT had also started monitoring integrated radiation levels. We found one of these monitoring posts at Akogi. Taking into account levels prior to the 23rd, the integrated level had already surpassed 25 millisieverts by March 30th, the day the people moved out of the community center. Even if they had remained indoors, they would have been exposed to 50 millisieverts per year, the figure stipulated by the Nuclear Safety Commission for evacuation had they continued to stay for only a few more months. How was the ministry's data relayed to Namiyamachi then?
ETV 特集と言いまして、教育テレビでこの32番というのは実は講義のテスト用なんですけどね。もう
The town had been aware of the monitoring post. However, they did not pay much attention to it, as the location was not publicized.
32番積算量を突出している。地名は伏せられてるんですけど、でそのデータはもうちょっと早くお伝えするっていう判断は。
いやだから正確な数字であればね、正確な数字であればいいんですけれども、それは文科省から出てるやつをホームページで取ってきたものを私に報告があったっていうことであって、正式ではないんですよ。なるほど。はいはい。
なるほど。逆にその文科省の方からパソコンでアップっていうような形じゃなくて、町と町の方にですね。こういうデータについて正確な報告がなかったわけ
ないですね。ないですよ。ただネットで流れてるだけだというふうに思いますけれどもね。ですから例えばこういうふうに文科省正式な文章でこういうふうな数値になってますというようなことはないですから、情報提供はなかったです。なかったです。はい。
そのことどう思われますか。
だからどうなんですかね、その責任の所在が文科省にあるのか、その経産省にあるのか、安全保安院にあるのか、それが一元化されてないですよね。
After screening, some of the people who came from the Akogi Community Center needed decontamination because their numbers were high. We asked MEXT about why they had hidden the names of the locations. Their response was that they wanted to avoid unfair rumors. It should have been their priority, however, to inform people in the most danger of that danger. Akogi was simply a hole in the ground, and no information could reach it.
How could high concentrations of radiation continue to contaminate Akogi, 27 kilometers away from the nuclear power plant? In late April, Masaharu Okano set out to do a survey of the area. In the car, he took with him a system that consecutively records the time and amount of radiation in synchronization with footage taken from a video camera. The bar graph at the bottom illustrates changes in the amount of radiation. In addition, a spectrum or graph showing the different radionuclides is superimposed onto the video image at 30-second intervals. For example, this red section is the peak of cesium-134 and 137. The first place Okano headed to was the center of Namie-Machi, 8 kilometers from the nuclear power plant. This is where the homes of those who had evacuated to Akogi remain. After the accident, all residents were ordered to evacuate. Remnants of the earthquake still remain, as the town is deserted. Surprisingly, there is not much movement in the monitor on the screen. Namie-Machi Station, Joban Line. Radioactivity monitored here was 1 microsievert per hour, roughly 1/20th of that monitored in Akogi during the same period. Okano says that in the center of town, where there is a lot of asphalt, radiation gets washed away, which can lower radiation levels.
It's basically between 0.8 and 1 micros, so we can say that it's quite low. I had never expected the level to be this low, so close to the plant.
The group decided to drive along Route 114 that connects the center of Namie and Akogi. Radiation is not high in the center of town. As we move along, the road goes up a subtle incline as it follows a river into a valley. Just outside the 20-kilometer zone, the meter starts to rise, sending the bar graph off the screen. The spectrum is no longer displayed.
30マイクロ振り切りましたね。40マイクロから、40マイクロですね。あ、先生のなりっぱなしということですね。
ピーって言っちゃってるから、これはもうオーバーフローだ。はい。バーグラフは生きてるけどね。
はい。高いですね。やっぱり20キロ圏超えたあたりで40マイクロっていうのはやっぱり高いと思いますよ。原発前が70マイクロシーベルトパワーですので、それの半分以上の地点が40マイクロですからね。
Being the day before entry was cut off to all areas within a 20-kilometer radius, there were many cars with people going home to pick up some belongings. This is the contamination in the valley recorded by Mr. Okano's device. We can see that high concentrations of radiation have settled over an area of 20 kilometers. Mr. Okano suggests that there may be a connection with severe changes in weather conditions in the valley along the river. After the explosion of Unit 1 on March 12th, the wind was blowing in a northward direction. After the explosion at Unit 3 on the 14th, the wind had shifted and was blowing to the south, carrying radiation towards Iwaki and Tokyo. The Unit 2 explosion at 6 a.m. on the 15th was followed by winds to the northwest. Radiation levels in Iwaki went up at 2 p.m. and in Fukushima City at 5 p.m. The radiation that invaded Akogi was likely carried by this wind. The weather suddenly became cold in the middle of the night on the 15th, bringing snow to the valley. The falling snow helped the radiation that had accumulated to settle to the ground where it was absorbed by soil and vegetation. In her diary, Iwakura at the community center wrote that it snowed or rained in the valley 4 days out of 2 weeks. This radiation flowed along Route 114 to Fukushima City, and part of it separated and landed in the village of Iitate. After going through Namiemachi on Route 114, the group turned off onto Route 399, leading north, and finally heading up a mountain. This area, where MEX has set up a monitoring post, is also a hot spot. We arrive in the village of Itatemura. With a population of approximately 6,000, one-third of the income earners are farmers. Academic researchers from Kyoto University and Hiroshima University had begun studying the contamination here in Iitate at the end of March.
14 マイクロシーベルトパワー
The research group's intention was to grasp the full contamination scene with the cooperation of the village office. From the main road in the village center, 130 points were chosen to monitor radiation. The contamination was far more serious than anyone had ever imagined.
30
I can't believe this is real. I am going to monitor the contamination here and record it clearly, so that it will remain in history. That is my job.
Because most of the village is outside of the 30-kilometer zone, it was not designated for evacuation. However, strong radiation was detected. Depending on the type of radioactive material, contamination could last a very long time. The researchers took samples of dirt from 5 areas within the village and deciphered the radionuclides. This is their report, which was made public in early April. A contamination map was created from radioactivity, assessed in 130 locations. The entire village had been contaminated. There were differences in the amounts monitored. Compared to the north, the entire southern area bordering Akogi had the largest amount. At every point monitored, cesium-137, with a half-life of 30 years, was evident in the soil. For Iitate village, whose main livelihood is from farming, extended periods of contamination is a matter of life and death.
April came. Although it was farming season, no one was in the fields at Iitate village. Hearing that many farmers were not able to prepare for seeding, we decided to visit some. This is Muneo Kano, an Iitate farmer. When the contamination became apparent, the entire village decided that they would not be growing anything this year.
今はね、水に浸してる時期なんです。でも何もできなくて。
For this couple, this is the first time ever that they could not plant rice.
つもみのままだよね、まだ。種もみに罪はないよね。本当に種もみに罪はない。これ れ全部これもタラの木だから、それに芽が出るとタラの芽になるんですよ。ここもいい。
Afraid of the contamination, they will not be eating the mountain vegetables.
全部ダメ。
People in this village lived on the abundant gifts of nature that their land provided them. Radiation was poured all over that land.
本当に清流だからヤマメ、イワナがいるわけよ。それで4月1日解禁なんだけれども、それなら解禁。本当に釣り情報関係で結構来るんだよね。ところが今年は全然来ない。
ヤマメとイワナいるんですよ。いっぱいいるんだよ。いるんだよ、ここに。
天然のですか。
ここにいるの、ここに。ここの石の中に。日中遊んで夕方戻って。こっちいるんだよ。
もうこれがもうダメなんだ。
The Kanos had reduced pesticides, delivering safe produce to the people in the big cities. They can't do that anymore.
結局自然が全て売り物。まあそういうことで本当に情けない、全く情けないんだ。本当に怒りはもう本当にどこにぶつけたらいいかわかんないけれども、やはり国策だから
おとなしくしてたんだから、
やっぱり当然国当然
息ができるだけね、あれがあればいいんだけど、農家はいつのようにも弱いね。
For a farmer to have his soil taken away means losing every bit of livelihood. Shingo Kano and his family have been growing rice, tobacco, and broccoli.
こう生活してんのにどうやって暮らしていいかわかんないな。収束してくれればね、なんとかどうにかなんだけど。
でも現にもう土汚れてくから無理だって、ここで作物作っても。
そうしよう。
そうだと思うしかねえわよ。これ自然消滅。
Now the family is faced with a difficult decision. Shingo has already sent his wife and young child out of the village. His mother, Tokuko, is preparing to move to Fukushima City, where she will look for a job. Will they ever be able to go back to farming again? This is a big question for them.
お母さんの場合は働くとこだ。ここから通えとか。
みんなどうすんだろう。だってそんなこと言ったら、ね、農業できないって言ったら農業やってる人いっぱいいんだよ。
お母さんは農業やんないって。やんの？
やんのって。だから別にあっちに住んでこっちに帰ればいいんじゃないの。農業やれってなってね、やりたいってなったの。それでもいいんじゃないのって思ってるよ。
お母さん自分でちゃんとはっきりしてるよ。自分で仕事見つける。仕事を見つけろ、自分で。
見つけるのは分かるけど、農業やるって言ったらもう戻ってきてやってもいいことだけど、子供をここに住まし居住を置いてっていうのは考えてないってこと分かる。
分かるよ。一発さえ何もなかったらな、こんなことになんないのかな。なんで原発でな、前に進まねえんだ。進まんねえ。
もうその辺大体ですね。
僕の見えるのは全部ぐらいですか。
あとあっちにもあと結構遠くに大きい畑があるんですけど、ここから20キロくらい離れたところですか。そこはもうものすごい汚染なんですけど。全部そうなんだ。実際に被災してるわけじゃないですか。全部失って。ただ悔しいだけですよね、本当に。普通に、ここで農業やって、子供育てて。子供幼稚園に入れて、小学校入れて、普通の環境で、
The radiation that contaminated the land is now threatening to take away the people's precious dreams.
Okano and Kimura have entered Fukushima City after following the trail of radiation that the wind carried along Route 114. "300,000 people live in this prefectural capital. The radiation level per hour is 0.5 to 1 microsievert per hour. It's over a decimal point lower than the other areas, but the spectrum is showing a peak in cesium-134 and 137.
いや、そんなでもない。伝わってきてますよ。だからむしろ学校の校庭とか公園とかああいうところの方がね、降ったものがよくわかるんでね。
これは忍山になるんですよね。忍山の脇っていうのが高いんじゃないですかね。
Close to the city center is Mount Shinobu. Radiation was higher in the area surrounding this mountain. Kimura went to visit the park at the top of the mountain.
$3.3, 3.4 microsieverts. I suppose it lingers to plants like moss, where it accumulates easily. That's where the level is highest.
線量的には高いですね。
This is the Watari district in the southeastern section of the city. Radiation levels started to go up as they neared the Watari Junior High School.
Oh, it's very high. It's 2.2. Oh, here in the playground. Oh, it's high. It's high. Wait. Stop here. It's between 4 and 4.25. This is about the same as the level 3 kilometers from Chernobyl today. There's asphalt at the front gate, so the radiation washes off in the rain and wind. That's why it's lower here. It's even lower than before, 1.47.
A map of Fukushima City, according to Mr. Okano's records. The red dots indicate 2 microsieverts or more per hour. It is evident that contamination is higher near the mountains at the north and south ends of the city, and also in the surrounding farmlands. It is likely that radiation that was blown in by the wind entered the ground with the snow.
There isn't a single student standing on the schoolyard. Watari Junior High School has not used their schoolyard since the accident at the nuclear power plant. March 11th, the day of the earthquake, was graduation day. Then followed the nuclear fallout. The safety of 458 students is in the hands of Principal Saito.
お子様への対応をお願いするということで、文書で冷静に行動を起こしてほしいということと、登下校、外に出るときには帽子をかぶるなど、できるだけ鼻の露出を少なくするように心がけて、マスクとか口とか鼻を保護するようにしてくださいと。
The note from the principal suggests a feeling of wanting to protect the students from radiation, but being very careful not to cause them emotional burdens. Club activities are held in the school building with the windows closed to prevent radiation. Baseballs made of packed newspaper. Spring is an important season for making up teams to compete in inter-school competitions. But these students can't even practice catch. In place of students' footsteps, on the playground is something we don't normally see. A reference marker that the city set to monitor the level of radiation.
毎日来て測ってるので、ポイント、今頃だとね、そうサッカーなんて、サッカー、陸上、あそこ野球やってます。あそこで野球。もう子供らがね、声出しながら、もう汗かいてやってる状況なんだけど、これだもんね。いや、寂しいですよね。いつもの光景でないよね。
Principal Saito will retire at the end of this school year. He is spending his final year with the children in a radiation-contaminated school.
自然の景色は素晴らしいんだけどね、この見えない、ね、ものが我々の活動を邪魔してる。毎日戦い。
On April 19th, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology announced that the amount of radiation a child can be exposed to in 1 year is 20 millisieverts. From that figure, the top figure allowed for school playgrounds was 3.8 microsieverts per hour. Schools where the measurement exceeded that were restricted to 1 hour of outdoor activity per day. However, 20 millisieverts per year is 4 times the amount that limits persons under 18 from working in radiation-controlled areas.
放射能で病気になったりするんじゃないかっていう、やっぱり先がまだこの子たち長いので、病気が一番心配ですね。てかどうすることもできないですよね、正直もう。他に移り住むこともできないので、もうここで住むしかないので、避けれるものは少しでも避けてあげたいっていう感じ。でもあんまりにも制限しすぎても子供もストレス溜まってしまうので、やっぱりちょっとでも体力でつけさせたり動かせたりとかいうことは考えてるんですけど。
Parents were just praying for minimal exposure to radiation for their children.
3センチ掘れば大丈夫だっていうふうに出てる。
Apparently, there is a way to reduce radiation on the contaminated schoolyard. Fukushima soil where radiation has settled. The count here is roughly 3 microsieverts per hour. 10 centimeters of topsoil has been removed. By scraping the top off of the schoolyard, the children's amount of exposure to radiation can be reduced. One group had already started on this project. The city of Koriyama, 60 kilometers from the nuclear power plant. The playground of an elementary school had measured higher than the limit. They shaved 3 centimeters off the top. The ministry says that if daily limits are not exceeded, there is no need for radiation removal. This is the decision of Koriyama City. When they finish their work, they find that the level of radiation had gone down from 4.1 microsieverts per hour to 1.9. The city plans to use the shaved soil for landfill. This is Osemachi, with a population of 4,500. Trucks loaded with waste material were traveling back and forth. This is the Kozu waste disposal site on the outskirts of the town. Just as the townsfolk were discussing the possibility of contaminated materials being brought from radiation-affected areas after the earthquake, they were notified of a plan to bring in dirt. The day that the playground was scraped, an emergency meeting was held. Roughly 100 residents rushed over. People from the Department of Consumer and Environmental Protection of Koriyama City try to convince the residents to accept the dirt.
除去した標準については格別に放射線の濃度が高いということではありませんで、これは
交通不評で今度交通の野菜ゴミもうんなくなるこうだろ持ってきちゃった農家泉がとんでもないのです。これは絶対反対。皆さん反対ですね。以上。
子供ってあなた方言いますけども、ここになんか子供いるんですよ、未来の子供が。
今の原発の問題は全て東電と国が責任あるんですよ。郡山市はそれをなんで東電と交渉しないんですか。我々と交渉したってしょうがないでしょ。東電の敷地に持って行って東電のところに入って中止ということでよろしいですか。
わかりました。そのような形でですから皆さんのご理解をいただけないうちはあそこの工事の埋め立てには持ってこない。それは私の方からお聞きします。
The contaminated dirt was left on the schoolyard. The mayor of Koriyama is presently negotiating support from the national government with the help of neighboring mayors. However, the national government's instructions to maintain the soil on the school grounds have not changed. Parents in Fukushima are raising their voices in protest. They went to Nagata-cho to find out if the national government is going to put shackles on activities to protect children.
福島のですね、校庭のある学校の校庭の土をここに置かせてください。で、これを見ながらお話し合いをさせてください。
There is dirt that has been contaminated by radiation. There are children on that dirt. They challenge the ministry with this.
こういうお話し合いがしたくて今日は来ました。砂場で遊んだり、ドロンコで遊んだりするんですよ。その土でですよ。見てください、それを。それがいいのかってことなんです。いいわけないから早く手を打つために20ミリシーベルトの基準を撤回してくださいってことなんです。これを撤回しないと身動き取れないんですよ。これじゃいかんと言っていただければ手を打つんです、みんな。お願いします。撤回してください。
20ミリシーベルトで危険ということではないというふうに私は思っております。ただし20ミリトでいいとは思っていないので、できるだけ低くする。この辺は多分いろいろご意見があると思いますが、私どもが出した通知を守っていただければ安全上問題になるようなことではないということなので、
Just as the figure was being set at 20 millisieverts per year, a representative from the Nuclear Safety Commission, who was asked to say something in support of NEXT, stated something quite the contrary.
その20ミリシーベルトを基準とすることは、これはもう認められない。これははっきり申し上げさせていただきます。20ミリシーベルトを基準とすること、これはもう原子力安全委員会は認めておりません。認めておりません。はい。20ミリシーベルト、年間20ミリシーベルトの被爆は許容しません。子どもに関しては。それはもうはっきり原子力安全委員会として言われさせていただきます。
そうしますと安全委員会は、じゃあ何ミリシーベルトまでなら大丈夫だというふうに言ってるんですか。
申し訳ございません。今の段階ではまだその生徒さんが許容できる限度というのは申し上げてございません。
今後も決める予定はないんですか。
もちろんですね、引き続き検討させていただいて、必要な助言を引き続きさせていただきます。
原子力安全委員会は20ミリシーベルトを子供にあげさせていいとは認めてないんですよ。で、どれくらいが適切かっていうのはこれから考えるって言ってるんですよ。答え出るまで待ちましょうよ。通常の学校やるの。
Children's lives are in the hands of ambiguous standards. The 20 millisievert limit has still not been revoked.
In April, the scientists who had analyzed Shinzo Kimura's samples from Fukushima gathered together. They have gathered for a meeting to discuss the results. Toshihiro Takatsuji of Nagasaki University reported on the characteristics of nearly 50 samples of dirt. There were big differences in the amount of radiation found in each sample. For example, compared to a distance of 44 kilometers from the nuclear plant, cesium contamination was over 2,000 times higher at a 4-kilometer point. He continued by making an interesting point.
Dirt taken from the same location, 5 centimeters and 10 centimeters. Moss looks the same. They have the same components.
What Mr. Takatsuji is saying is that while the levels may differ, the ratio of radionuclides was very similar wherever the sample was taken. He says the dirt had the same expression.
When I went to do the research in Chernobyl many years ago, it was very difficult to find a characteristic figure. This time, however, the spectrum is more uniform.
What do you think are the similarities, or rather the biggest differences, between the accident in Chernobyl and the one here?
I would have to say temperature. Chernobyl exploded while the temperature was still very high. Because of that, everything blew out at once. This time, we're seeing an expansion of materials that were slowly released.
The fuel rods themselves did not burn this time. Also, they did not burst out in a steam explosion, so basically we saw an unusual release of materials that were cesium, tellurium, barium, lanthanum, and the like.
Very important samples were collected in the 2-month survey. However, analyses to clearly read out the complex patterns of a nuclear accident have only just begun. In order to create a radioactive fallout contamination map, Masaharu Okano and Shinzo Kimura traveled time and again, carefully and accurately monitoring the affected areas. Today, they are headed to the front entrance of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. They were not admitted entry. Kimura hopes that one day he will be able to survey the radiation levels at the site of the accident. Kimura got a dirt sample 1 kilometer outside the power plant. He thought that possibly he would find deadly plutonium in the soil of a land no longer occupied by residents. Plutonium has only been found inside the premises of the power station. He sent his sample to Kanazawa University, where specific analyses can be made.
Radioactive contamination has dug up people's lives from the roots and taken them away. Yoichi Shinoki, the racehorse breeder of Katsurao Mura. He's decided to leave his home and evacuate to Koriyama. The stable is empty of all life. The colt that was born just after the accident was adopted by a ranch in Ibaraki, free of charge. Shinoki will be looking for a new job in Koriyama. The stable that had been in business for over 100 years now had to be closed. The Iwakuras, who we met at the community center in Akogi, were on their way to Namiyamachi. They were going home to feed their pets for the first time in a while. This was 1 week before people were no longer allowed into the 20-kilometer zone. They may never return again. Roughly 8 kilometers from the site of the accident, the town that they knew well was enveloped in spring as usual. Their dog Panda had stayed alive on the food and water they had brought before. They were only allowed to stay for 1 hour. Time flew by too quickly. On their way out, Kimiko retied Panda's leash so he could undo it himself if he needed to.
It has been 2 months since the nuclear accident at Fukushima. The radioactive fallout contamination map, created by 2 scientists, Shinzo Kimura and Masaharu Okano, was now complete. The distance they traveled for the survey, approximately 3,000 kilometers. Just until the other day, life was connected on this land, full of nature's riches. Radiation made this scar.